Chapter 7: Consumers, Producers, and the Efficiency of Markets. In this chapter, we answer the following questions. What is consumer surplus? How is it related to the demand curve? What is producer surplus? How is it related to the supply curve? Do markets produce a desirable allocation of resources, or could the market outcome be improved upon? So, what is welfare economics? Allocation of resources refers to how much of each good is produced, which producers produce it, which consumers consume it. Welfare economics studies how the allocation of resources affect economic well-being. Conclusion: the equilibrium of supply and demand maximizes the total benefits received by all buyers and sellers combined. So, consumer surplus. Let us define willingness to pay, or WTP, is the maximum amount the buyer will pay for that good. How much the buyer values the good. Consumer surplus, or CS, is equal to WTP minus P, willingness to pay, minus the price of the item. Amount a buyer is willing to pay minus the amount the buyer actually pays. It is the benefits buyers receive from participating in a market. Example 1a, willingness to pay. You work at the local store that sells refurbished iPads. The store is running a sale on the refurbished iPad Mini 3. Each of your roommates wants to buy an iPad Mini 3. Their willingness to pay is given in the table below. Alexis is willing to pay $250. Cameron is willing to pay $175. Fatima wants to pay $300. Jamir wants to pay $125. Question: if the sale price is $200, who will buy an iPad and what is the quantity demanded? Number A, Alexis and Fatima will buy an iPad Mini. Cameron and Jamir will not. Hence, quantity demanded is equal to 2 when the price is $200. Example 1b, willingness to pay and the demand curve. Derive the demand schedule. We still have the participants, Alexis, Cameron, Fatima, and Jamir, and their willingness to pay. If the price of iPad is $301 and up, nobody will buy it because nobody has got that willingness to pay. If the price is between $250 to $300, Fatima will buy, so quantity demanded will win because Fatima's willingness to pay is $300. If price is between $176 to $250, Alexis and Fatima will buy the iPad, and so quantity demanded will be 2. The price between $126 and $175, Cameron, Alexis, and Fatima will get an iPad, so quantity demanded will be 3. If the price is between 0 and $125, everybody, Jamir, Cameron, Alexis, Fatima, will get an iPad and quantity demanded will be 4. When you plot that information, On a two-dimensional graph, it will look like this. Between 301 and 350, or 301 and above, there will be nobody. Zero quantity demanded. When the price is between 250, 251 to 300, one will be demanded. When the price is between 176 and 250, two will be demanded. It will be right at 2. When the price is between 126 and 175, 3 will be demanded. And when the price is between 0 and 125, 4 will be demanded of the iPad. So that is the demand curve. So about the staircase shape, this demand curve looks like a staircase with 4 steps, one per buyer. If there were a huge number of buyers, as in a competitive market, there would be a huge number of very tiny steps, and it would look more like a smooth curve, which is what you usually see. A straight line, a smooth curve. Example 1c, demand curve 2. At any quantity, the height of the demand curve is the willingness to pay of the marginal buyer. The marginal buyer is the buyer who would leave the market if price were any higher. Calculating consumer surplus. Consumer surplus is equal to willingness to pay minus price. So suppose price is 260. Fatima's consumer surplus would be 300. That is Fatima's willingness to pay minus the price, 260, and that would be 40. The others get no consumer surplus because they do not buy an iPad mini at this price. So total consumer surplus would be 40. So price 260, Fatima's consumer surplus is 40, and total consumer surplus is 40. Suppose the price drops to $220. Okay. Fatima's consumer surplus increases to 80. That is 300, which is the Fatima's willingness to pay, minus 220, which is the price. So Fatima's consumer surplus is 80. But Alexis will join the market also. Alexis' willingness to pay is 250. The price is 220. So Alexis will have $30 worth of consumer surplus. Total consumer surplus, therefore, is 80 plus 30. Total consumer surplus is the area below the demand curve and above the price. The height of the demand curve is equal to the value buyers place on the good, that is willingness to pay. Each buyer's consumer surplus equals willingness to pay minus the price. The sum of the consumer surplus of all buyers in the market. Example 2, consumer surplus for one buyer. And the demand price is on the vertical axis, quantity is on the horizontal axis. Now quantity is t-shirts. Straight line demand curve. At five units or 5 t-shirts, the marginal buyer is willing to pay $50 for the t-shirt. Suppose the price is $30, then his consumer surplus is 20, which is the willingness to pay, which is 50 minus 30, and the surplus is 20. The demand for t-shirts P at $30, quantity demanded would be 15. Consumer surplus is the area between the price, in this case $30, and the demand curve from 0 to Q, from here to here. The blue triangle is the consumer surplus. Recall area of a triangle equals half times base times height. The height is 30. The base is 15. So consumer surplus is 1/2 times base, which is 15, times height, which is 30. And that is equal to 225. A higher price reduces consumer surplus. If price rises from 30 to 40, consumer surplus is now 1/2 times base, which is now 10, times height, which is 20, and that will be 100. Two reasons for the fall in consumer surplus. Number one, fall in consumer surplus due to buyers leaving the market, and that is this little triangle. The people left the market. Originally it was 15, now it is 10. So 5 people have left the market. Two, a fall in consumer surplus due to remaining buyers paying a higher price. This is the loss due to a higher price. These people who are now buying are paying a higher price. Number A, find marginal buyers' willingness to pay at Q equals 10. Number B, find consumer surplus for P equals $30. Suppose P falls to $20. How much will CS increase due to buyers entering the market? Number C. Number D, existing buyers paying lower price. Answer. At Q equals 10, the marginal buyer's willingness to pay is $30. And that is the blue area, the blue triangle. So consumer surplus is 1/2 times base. The base is 10 and the height is 10, and that is 50. If the price falls from 30 to 20, consumer surplus for additional buyers. There will be more people getting into the market. More people will be out there buying t-shirts. So consumer surplus for the additional buyers will be 1/2 times 10 times 10, which is equal to 50. This is 10. This is the area of this little triangle. The base is 10, from 10 to 20, and the height is 10, from 20 to 30. So the area, which is the consumer surplus, that goes to the additional buyers, is 1/2 times 10 times 10, and that is 50. Then there is an increase in consumer surplus on initial people who are now paying lower price, and they're going to benefit the area of this rectangle, which is 10 times 10. This distance is 10 and this distance is 10. The area of the rectangle is 100. Producer surplus, cost. Value of everything a seller must give up to produce a good, and that includes opportunity cost. A willingness to sell, or WTS, is the lowest price accepted by a seller for one unit of a good or service. The cost is a measure of willingness to sell, produce, and sell the good or service only if the price is greater than cost. Producer surplus, or PS, equals the price minus cost. Amount a seller is paid for a good minus the seller's cost of providing it. Price received minus willingness to sell. It measures the benefits sellers received from participating in a market. Example 3a, cost and willingness to sell. You are the lucky winner of 3 properties with identical lawns that need mowing. There are 3 lawn mowing businesses in town that you can hire. The table below shows their willingness to sell. Derive the supply schedule from the cost data. Okay, there is Jin, who is willingness to sell is $10. Jada, willingness to sell is $20. Chris, willingness to sell is $35. Okay. When the price offered is between 0 and 9, none of these people will take this offer. If you raise the price to 10 to 19, one of these will offer to mow your lawn. So the quantity supplied will be 1. If you raise the price further to 20, between 20 and 34, 2 people will offer their services. And if you make an offer 35 and up, all these 3 people will show up wanting to cut your lawn. The supply curve, like the demand curve, is plotted on a 2-dimensional graph with price on the vertical axis and quantity on the horizontal axis. And it will also be a stairways. From 0 to 9, nobody is going to offer to cut your lawn. 0. From 10 to 19, 1 person. This corresponds to 1. From 20 to 34, 2 people. That is 2. From 35 and up, all of them, 3 people, will offer their services. At each quantity, the height of the supply curve is the cost of the marginal seller, the seller who would leave the market if the price were any lower. So Jin's cost is $10. Jada's cost is $20. And Chris' cost is $35. Producer surplus is equal to the price minus cost. Suppose the price is 25. Jin's producer surplus is 25 minus 10. And that's the area of this. Jada's producer surplus is 25 minus 20, which is 5. Chris' producer surplus is 0. Chris is not willing to participate in this bidding. Total producer surplus is $20. Producer surplus, or PS, is equal to P minus cost, the area below the price and above the supply curve. The height of the supply curve measures the seller's costs. Each seller's producer surplus is equal to P minus cost. Total area is the sum of the producer surplus of all sellers. Producer surplus for one seller. The unit of t-shirt is measured on the horizontal axis, and the price per unit is measured on the vertical axis. Suppose price is 40. At 15, the marginal seller's cost is 30 and her producer surplus is 10. Total surplus, total producer surplus. PS is the area between the price and the S and the supply curve from 0 to Q. The height of this triangle is 40 minus 15, which is $25. So PS, which is equal to 1/2 times base times height, the area of this green area, the base seems to be 25, the height seems to be 25. This is from 40 down to 25. So that looks like 25. So the producer surplus is 1/2 times 25 times 25, the area of this triangle. A lower price reduces producer surplus. If price falls to 30, producer surplus is now 1/2 times 15 times 15, which is 112.50. Two reasons for fall in PS. One, fall in PS due to sellers leaving the market. Two, fall in PS due to remaining sellers getting lower price. Active Learning 2. Number A, find marginal seller's cost at Q equals 10. B, find total producer surplus from P equals 20. Suppose P rises to 30. Find the increase in producer surplus due to C, selling 5 additional units, D, getting a higher price on the initial 10 units. So at Q equals 10, marginal cost is 20. And producer surplus is 1/2 times 10 times 20. This is 10 is the base, this is 20 is the height, and the area of this triangle is 1/2 times 10 times 20, and that will be 100. Price rises to 30. Producer surplus on additional units sold would be 1/2 times 50 times 10 times 25, the area of this rectangle triangle. Increase in producer surplus on initial 10 units. Benevolent social planner. The benevolent social planner hypothetical character, an all-knowing, all-powerful, well-intentioned dictator wants to maximize the economic well-being or of everyone in society, evaluate market outcomes, cares about efficiency and equity. Allocation of resources. Is it desirable? Decentralized in a market economy, determined by interactions of many self-interested buyers and sellers. Total surplus, which measure of society's well-being, to consider whether the market's allocation is efficient. Total surplus is consumer surplus plus producer surplus. The consumer surplus is equal to value to the buyers among each amount paid by buyers. Consumer surplus is equal to value to buyers minus amount paid by buyers. Buyers gains from participating in the marketplace. Producer surplus equals amount received by sellers minus cost to sellers. Sellers gain from participating in the marketplace. Total surplus, therefore, equals value to buyers minus cost to sellers. Efficiency. The allocation of resources maximizes total surplus. Efficiency is the pie as big as possible. What about equality? Distribute economic prosperity uniformly among the members of society. Every member of society gets an equal slice of the pie. Market's allocation of resources. Free market outcomes allocate the supply of goods to the buyers who value them most as measured by their WTP. 2. Allocate the demand for goods to the sellers who can produce them at the lowest price. Number 3. Produce the quantity of goods that maximizes the sum of the consumer and producer surplus. Raising or lowering the quantity of goods would not increase total surplus. Evaluating the market equilibrium. Market equilibrium price is $30. Equilibrium quantity is $15. The blue triangle is the consumer surplus. The yellow triangle is the producer surplus. Total surplus is the consumer surplus plus producer surplus. And this is the market equilibrium efficient? That's a good question. Every buyer whose willingness to pay is equal to or greater than 30 will buy some item. Every buyer whose willingness to pay is less than 30 will not buy this stuff. The buyers who value the good most highly are the ones who consume it. Every seller whose cost is equal to or less than $30 will produce the good on the supply card right there. Every seller whose cost is equal to or greater than 30 will not. The sellers with the lowest cost produce the good. At Q equals to 20, cost of producing the marginal unit is 35. The value of the item is the value to consumers of the marginal unit is only $20. Hence, we can increase total surplus by reducing output. So at 20, the market is not efficient. This is true at any output greater than 15. At output equal to 10, cost of producing the marginal unit is 25. The value to consumers of the marginal unit is $40. Hence, we can increase total surplus by increasing output. This is true at any output less than 15. Adam Smith and the Invisible Hand, passage from The Wealth of Nations in 1776, is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the marketer that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. Every individual neither intends to promote the public interest nor knows how much he is prompting it. He intends only his own gain, and he is in this, as in many other cases, led by an invisible hand to promote an end which was not part of his intention. By pursuing his own interest, he frequently promotes that of the society more effectively than when he really intended to promote it. Market efficiency and market failure. Forces of supply and demand allocate resources efficiently. Assumptions about how markets work. Number one, markets are perfectly competitive. Number two, outcome in a market matters only to the buyers and sellers in that market. When these assumptions do not hold, market equilibrium is efficient may no longer be true. Market failure. Market power, a single buyer or a single small group control market prices. Markets are inefficient under those circumstances. Externalities, these are decisions of buyers and sellers, affect people who are not participants in the market at all. Inefficient equilibrium from the standpoint of society as a whole. Ask the experts. Supplying kidney. A market that allows payment for human kidneys should be established on a trial basis to help extend the Lions of Judah with kidney disease. What do economists say? Think, pair, and share. Some years ago, the front page of the Boston Globe ran the headline, How a Mother's Love Helped Save Two Lives. The mom couldn't donate a kidney to her son, not compatible. Hospital's solution, the mom donates one of her kidneys to a stranger. Her son moves to the top of the kidney waiting list. What do you know about the market for kidneys? Is the current situation efficient? Is it fair? What would happen if the efficiency of the market What would happen with the efficiency of the market if people were allowed to sell or buy kidneys? Chapter in a nutshell: consumer surplus. Buyers' willingness to pay for a good minus the amount they actually pay. It measures the benefit buyers get from participating in a market. Area below, it is the area below the demand curve and above the supply curve. Producer surplus. This is the amount sellers receive for their goods minus their costs of production. It measures the benefits sellers get from participating in a market. Area below the price and above the supply curve. An allocation of resources that maximizes total surplus is said to be efficient. Policymakers are concerned with the efficiency as well as the equality of economic outcomes. Equilibrium of supply and demand maximizes total surplus. The invisible hand of the marketplace leads buyers and sellers to allocate resources efficiently. Markets do not allocate resources efficiently in the presence of market failures, that is, market power or externalities.